Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Hello and welcome to WrestleRamble. This is Luke Owen, I'm Ollie Davis, and today we're going to be going through our Extreme Rules reactions and revealing the results of our predictions on those matches. Yes, I know it's a little bit late because Extreme Rules was almost a week ago now, but we're gonna be chatting, we're gonna be shooting the breeze. It's gonna be fun, it's gonna be good.
Shooting the Tyler breeze.
Click the links in the video description below if you want to go straight to that discussion, or stick right here where we are going to be answering the big thumbnail question that you probably clicked on this for, and that is Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. Is that good or bad?
Very, very, very good.
Ooh. So that was a quick segment.
Yes, absolutely. Let's move on to the predictions. No, of all the 5 opponents that could have come out of Extreme Rules, the 2 that I was most looking forward to facing Lesnar was...
Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt.
Yes, was Joe and Balor. I'm glad that they're saving Balor. I still hope they're going to do that at SummerSlam. I know you keep saying it's going to be Braun, but I'm really hoping it's Balor at SummerSlam and do Braun after that. But I was hoping it was going to be those 2. I've seen Roman Reigns, and they're going to save that for WrestleMania next year anyway. I've seen Seth Rollins, which is why I picked him, because I thought they would just get that out of the way again.
You did well in those predictions.
Didn't I just?
Get onto those later.
Yep. No, I told you I should have picked Neville. And I don't really want to see Bray Wyatt Lesnar, because the last thing that Lesnar needs is wacky wizardry around him. I'm not into that idea at all. But Samoa Joe v Brock Lesnar, that I am super duper into.
I agree. So in our predictions, we might as well talk about this one now, actually. I chose Finn Balor. In fact, we both... No, who did you choose?
I picked Seth Rollins. I thought they'd go for Rollins because, as I said, it's a B pay-per-view, so let's just do a match we've already seen before. It's Great Balls of Fire. It doesn't really matter too much. And we can save Samoa Joe and Finn Balor as new, fresh matches for bigger events like SummerSlam or Survivor Series.
Sure. What we can... And I chose Finn Balor because of that Paul Heyman promo. I thought that was... They put him over so strong and Balor got a win somewhere.
You were led up the garden path.
Yeah, it was. And I liked it. So if we piece this together from various reports like Wrestling Observer and PW Insider, there's a timeline that exists here. And that is, originally, Braun Strowman was going to face Brock Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire. Great Balls of Fire, 8th of June, I think. That's the next Raw exclusive pay-per-view.
July.
Yeah, 8th of July. God, it's not... Yeah, weekly pay-per-views now.
It's
just a show. In the old days. It's just a weekly show. It's not a pay-per-view. Why do they still call them pay-per-views? Can you even buy them?
I think they are still
buy them
on pay-per-views, yeah.
Okay. Well, So originally you had Strowman and Lesnar. Strowman got hurt. So I think it was going to be the Roman Reigns Braun Strowman rematch at Extreme Rules. And probably have the ambulance match there. But Braun Strowman would go on to face Lesnar. Strowman gets injured. All the plans go crazy. That's why we had a few weeks of terrible Raws, including...
The one we went to.
The one we were live at in London, which was just... I don't know what to do. Shall we make Dean Ambrose GM for a night? Yeah, sure, that works.
God, it's so house show.
That was tough. So that happens. And then their way around that is to create this fatal 5-way, which Samoa Joe ends up winning. And now Dave Meltzer has been saying that Braun Strowman is now really solidly scheduled in. Plans can change, of course, but he's scheduled in to face Brock. That's your big SummerSlam main event. SummerSlam is the next pay-per-view after Great Balls of Fire. How can I forget that name?
It really will be, won't it?
Yeah.
No, in August, right?
August.
Yeah, crikey.
Because they don't go every 2 weeks. It's like 3 weeks for the big joint shows.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I just completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot that it was so soon, yeah.
Maybe Battleground for SmackDown, I guess.
Yeah.
That might happen.
Backlash, right?
Backlash is usually the pay-per-view that happens. Yeah. After SummerSlam, they all have Backlash and pay-per-views, payback shows.
I just think every SmackDown pay-per-view is Backlash.
Yeah. So that's the timeline. Braun Strowman was meant to face Brock at Great Balls of Fire, but he's been moved to SummerSlam. So they've now got Samoa Joe facing Brock Lesnar, and the idea is that's only going to be a one-and-done match. One-and-done match, then Lesnar will move on to Braun. So, if that's the case, you saying, I'm glad Samoa Joe won, do you still feel that way if it's going to be a one-and-done?
No, exactly, because my thing was why I wanted Joe and Balor to be saved for something like a SummerSlam and Survivor Series, because I felt like those are two matches that you can build programs around rather than just being a one done. The problem with Lesnar, I suppose, is because of the way his contract works, it's hard to do programs with him. Really, I mean, his feud with Braun will be a one and done, because they probably won't have a rematch at Survivor Series because he'll have moved on to someone else, probably Balor by that point. So it's kind of hard to do programs with Brock. And it saddens me a little bit because I think that a Joe Lesnar program would be awesome. You know, it'd have been... The cynic inside of me said it probably would have been better 10 years ago, but I think that it'd be awesome now. So I'm still...
Only Brock went to TNA rather than UFC.
If only Brock had gone to TNA. Cole, what TNA could have done with Brock Lesnar, drawn a one rating on Spike and gone nowhere.
I mean, they would never have booked it, but there must have been a period where Brock was wrestling for New Japan. Was it New Japan or was it All Japan? It was for a Japanese promotion, and Samoa Joe was massive on the indies in that time. They had a Ring of Honor, always had a working relationship with the Japanese promotions. I'm sure if James Truepenny hears me say this, he's going to be like, not at that time they didn't, and give me a huge rundown of the exact chronology. But they could have had them 10 years ago in my made-up continuity.
But to answer your question, it saddens me that it's a one and done, but I still think they're going to have a really great match.
Okay, so here is the other part of my question to that. If it is a one and done, how would you book it so they're both okay? Because Brock's going to be okay, regardless. They're going to protect him. But how does Samoa Joe get out of this? I don't know, and I've tried to think of a way, and it can't just be... WWE haven't been able to do a good, you look really strong in defeat match for ages. They do it in New Japan all the time. Everyone comes out looking better than they did before they went into that match. But WWE just seems to be, you either fizzle or you're Bayley, and you look terrible coming out of the match. So how would you have Samoa Joe lose? Okay,
so my dream scenario for this in this build would be to do it actually akin to the Joe Angle feud they did in TNA. I think like 2007.
Yeah, Lockdown.
The Lockdown feud, where they built it like it was an MMA fight.
Biggest money match in TNA history.
Absolutely. And so that's kind of what I would want to go for. I would want to book this as a fight. And Samoa Joe looks great when he's a great wrestler and he has great wrestling matches. But when you put him into a fight, and Lesnar's the same thing. It's why his match with Goldberg at WrestleMania was the best match on the card.
John Cena on his return.
Yeah, because it just feels like a fight.
Feels like not WWE.
Exactly, something different, which is why I like Brock Lesnar. So I'd love that, and I would build it all around Joe trying to lock in the Kinkina clutch, and that's how I would put it. Is that he just couldn't lock it in. If he'd have locked that in, he would have won, and that's really what the commentators are going to be putting over. It's just like if he'd have locked that in, it'd have been all over because he can't escape it. But just like finally he gets it locked in, and perhaps Brock wears down, but then just hoists him up into an F5 position. And then that's it. Yeah,
just before it's about to take hold.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't have faith in WWE to tell that story. But the seeds are already there with what he did to Paul Heyman on Raw this week. That's a good idea, man.
Thanks, man.
I like that. Okay, so here's my next question.
Love a question.
Yeah, so what if this feud is really, really good? Mm-hmm. So the next month they've started hot. Like they've done... That's the perfect segment to open up a Joe and Brock feud. It's if you don't know what we're talking about and you didn't watch the show on Thursday, it's Samoa Joe. Paul Heyman came out, talked up to Samoa Joe for ages. Samoa Joe was like, I'm going to choke you out now. Choked out Paul Heyman, and that was his message to Brock Lesnar. And it was awesome. Worked really, really well. So if they continue to build it at that level, we know Brock's going to be on the show next week, and he also looks really strong. How would you continue the feud? How would you continue that feud into SummerSlam? Would you still do the same thing? I
would do the I had you beat. And perhaps they could, work it as a gimmick match. But yeah, I would do it, like when I say gimmick match, it'd be something like a submissions match or something like that. Something that works within Joe's favour. But I wouldn't be overly keen on that, but I think that there is enough ammo in the Samoa Joe character then to be like, I should be Universal Champion. I would be Universal Champion if I got another shot at it. I know I can beat him. And if that feud doesn't continue, which it probably isn't going to, Joe needs to use that rocket to go into another feud with another big dude, like a Roman Reigns. Perhaps like a Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns
battle
feud.
of the Samoan Joes.
A battle of the Samoan Joes, exactly.
Roman Reigns' real name is Joe, Anoa'i.
So, like, that'd be pretty cool as well, to be like, and that's a feud that Joe can at least get a few wins in before Reigns eventually overcomes. What?
Roman Reigns? But that's
because Roman Reigns eventually wins the feud.
Cool.
He's going over in the end.
Well, I thought you lost your mind.
No, but like I think it'd be something to really like push Joe as the killer, because then when Lesnar does lose the title at WrestleMania next year to Roman Reigns, you've then got Samoa Joe as this background killer that he should be champion.
So what do you think about... I mean, I think because Vince McMahon seems quite wedded to the idea of Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar for SummerSlam. That's your poster right there. Looks good. Although I don't think Braun's a proven draw yet.
Well, no, but is there such thing as a proven draw in these day and age?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, house show attendance is down, but yet Roman Reigns is the highest merchandise seller, so...
If the Joe feud is really hot, like they capture that, like perfect example, actually, really good example, I didn't think of it, which is the Kurt Angle lockdown feud. Do you add Samoa Joe into this Braun Strowman Brock Lesnar match?
No, I'd keep it as just a one-on-one thing.
Really?
Like I think WWE are at their best when they kind of stick to their guns. In a way, like I think they're great. I shouldn't really say that, because they're better when, like, Daniel Bryan is the perfect example. They wanted to do Batista versus Randy Orton as the main event of WrestleMania 30. That'd have been great. Booed out of the arena, but no, they slotted Daniel Bryan into that as well, and became one of the better Mania main events. The last
better WrestleManias.
Exactly, it was the last feel good WrestleMania. Like, we haven't had a feel good WrestleMania like that for some time now. I missed that, like that jubilation of just being like, that dude finally won. Yes. But at the same time, when WWE stick to what they want to do, they can't mess anything up. And sometimes when they add in elements, but look at
they mess it up all the time.
No, but look at the Goldberg Lesnar feud.
Right.
That was a feud they had booked from Survivor Series to WrestleMania, and they did not take a misstep during that whole period.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Is like when it comes to Lesnar, when they know what they're doing and they have a goal in mind, they can get there in 10 or so easy steps and do it fairly decently. Apart from when he first came back and got beat by John Cena in his first match back.
But they did change that. The title was never going to be a part of that. We know that from Chris Jericho's conversations with someone. He did an interview. But originally, Chris Jericho was going to win the title from Kevin Owens. So they did it.
The Universal title.
The Universal title, yeah.
Well, so that was going to be the Universal Championship match at WrestleMania.
And Brock and Goldberg wasn't going to have a thing attached. That was why Chris stayed for so long. Because Vince McMahon said to him, you'll get in the Universal title match at WrestleMania. But then over the months, things changed. Goldberg took off and they changed it.
Yeah. I mean, that is a slight deviation, but really that trajectory stayed more or less the same.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because this was going to be my point. And as much as I loved Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, Goldberg isn't around these days.
Nope.
Imagine if what happened in the Goldberg-Brock Lesnar match is what Samoa Joe did to Brock in Great Balls of Fire. But you can't do it, because that just happened.
It just happened, yeah.
That's Brock Lesnar's last feud. You can't start off his next feud with... I mean, Joe isn't exactly a young guy, but he's got about a decade left in the tank, unlike Goldberg, who this was his last... Who's last, but yeah, just that could have been creating a new star. Boom, like that. If nobody knows, Samoa Joe comes up from NXT, you have that match at Survivor Series.
Yeah. That'd have been great, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar? We are, of course, very much behind the idea. We're just curious, cautiously curious, to see how it plays out. Let us know in the comments below. But the rest of the card of Extreme Rules, we had predictions. And those predictions were in fact, let's walk you through it, shall we? Before we reveal who won. So, Rich Swann and Sasha Banks versus Noam Dar and Alicia Fox first up in the mixed gender tag match. Don't know why I haven't got these in order, because that was not the first match. The first match was Kalisto versus Kalisto versus Apollo Crews.
Yes, which we didn't predict because we had to make a guess as to what the pre-show match was going to be, and we thought it was going to be Goldie versus Truth, but in fact, it was the other undercard feud that we didn't see coming.
Which means we get more Goldust and R-Truth promos.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
which is really good on Raw.
We didn't talk about that in the Raw review, which I'd imagine people will pick up on. But we. Yeah, do you think that they're just going to keep continuing just cutting videos until they eventually have a match?
Yeah.
I mean,
and that makes me want to see it.
Do you know
what a novel concept.
Actually, when I was watching the promo from Goldust this week, it kind of made me wish that Dean Ambrose had kept on to the title, and then they did a Goldust Dean Ambrose feud.
Insert Goldust in there, yeah. I thought exact same thing. Like, why not just... You've got so many people waiting in the wings who are good. And Goldust has that star value that he could have last run. He
comes off like such a star in those promos.
Like, why does the title feuds, just have to be between two people and that is locked down for 3 to 4 months? Why can't you have other people coming in and trying at it and trying to... Because then you get this world where everyone's trying to get the title rather than just...
it should be.
We'll trade it back and forth for a bit now. Trade it back and forth over
here. Yeah, it was the same because, like, I mean, The Miz and Goldust, I suppose that's where they're going because Miz is the A-lister. He's Hollywood.
That's great, but Goldust is a heel.
I know, but, like, you can do heel versus heel, and it works, and it does work with Goldust.
No, you can't.
I think
in my opinion, heel versus heel never ever works as a I guess not as a top drawing card, but I think it could work. Face versus face works fine. So for that match, we didn't do the opening match, but the pre-match match rather. The opening match was Dean Ambrose versus The Miz, with the stipulation that if Ambrose was disqualified, he would lose the title. That's not what happened.
No.
You seemed in the Raw review when we were talking about that you weren't that impressed with this match.
I quite like the match.
Okay. But it's not the finish.
But no, the problem with the match is that all the in-ring work was fine, but you were waiting for the finish. Because the whole thing about, like, if he gets disqualified, he loses the belt. All I was doing is kind of sitting there going like, yeah, right, I'm waiting for the
shenanigans.
I'm waiting for the shenanigans to kick off. It's like when if you have a match and you're going to say, this guy's going to be in my corner, but then that guy's not in your corner at the start of the match. All you're really waiting for is for that lad to come down and be in the corner. Yeah. So Backlash 2000. So I didn't use the exact example. Remember when? But that's all I was waiting for. Like, more or less, really, is a fun match. But you could just do this on the app and get straight through. Oh, speaking of which, I've got something to vent actually. A little bit.
This came out of nowhere.
Dear WWE, if you could not put the main event result on the homepage of the app when you load it up to get to the network, that'd be grand, because that's what happened to me. So usually I watch...
You gotta go straight to the network page.
But you have to, like, you open it up and the homepage is there, so, like, you have to, like, put your hands over the screen and try and navigate without looking at things. But I just forgot about that, because in recent times, I've been watching it on TV. I've been using the Amazon Fire Stick or the PS4 to watch it, but... I had to use the app today. Open it up. What's there? Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. Great Balls of Fire. I'm like, brilliant. Nice one, lads. Just spoil it for us, why don't you? And amazingly enough, they did this with Samoa Joe's debut. I woke up and I went to watch NXT on my... And there it was. Samoa Joe debuts at NXT after the TakeOver event. I'm like, guys, just... Do the WrestleTalk thing. Who won at Extreme Rules? Or which shock ex-TNA star debuts at NXT?
So I have no sympathy for you.
Why is that?
Because this is a company that broadcasts their television, and then the biggest story coming out of that television or that pay-per-view should be the top story on their website, because the majority of the people in the world, 95%, are going to be Americans who watch it live, and then they're going to have watched it and go, oh, maybe I want to read WWE's article on what just happened. Goes onto the website, it's right there. Makes total sense.
Okay, counter argument. The WWE app, the WWE network, prides itself on being able to watch things on a delay. So the whole thing is it's a worldwide app and it's a worldwide network, so there aren't just the Americans watching it. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have an article about it. I'm absolutely saying you should have an article about it. But I would have just had a picture of Brock Lesnar in front of the Great Balls of Fire saying, like, who will face Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire. Click into it, then you have the Samoa Joe thing. Because...
What, so you're telling me on the WWE network it had that?
No, on the... So the way that the network works on an iPad is you go to the WWE homepage, essentially, and then you open up a menu that takes you to the network.
Okay.
So that was what the front page was. That's where my frustration lies.
I see.
Because it's on a delay, and the whole thing is like, you don't have to watch it live. You can watch it as soon as you wake up.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bugbear of mine.
It's a bugbear of yours. Yeah. Anyway, I quite enjoyed Miz versus Ambrose, and I didn't actually mind the finish at all. I thought it was nice the way they teased various ways of Miz getting the DQ win. Yeah. But then he actually just won clean, in the end.
It took me by surprise, and I really liked that about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we both got that one right. And next up was, I'm forgetting the order, and these aren't in order. Was it Alexa Bliss versus Bayley? Let's do that anyway. Yeah. We both got that right too. It was Alexa Bliss who won. And oh my God.
Poor old Bayley.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
I mean, be still my beating heart for Bayley, but it is broken in half with the dreadful, woeful booking of her character. That is a character that this main roster writers cannot wrap their heads around. They just don't get it. And what an awful job they did of her at that pay-per-view. And then, Roman Reigns was in an ambulance that was tipped over, and he was like battered and beaten up to death by Braun Strowman. Back a few weeks later, a bit taped up, but he's back. Like, Bayley took a couple of shots of kendo shots. She's off TV, and it's like, oh, she's at home recuperating. I'm like, people have taken much worse beatings and come back the following night. It makes her look like such a chump. It's such a shame.
So let's play out this Bayley feud, or not the Bayley feud. Sorry, the whole Bayley. Raw Women's Champion main eventer of the women's division storyline. So she wins it on a episode of Raw from Charlotte. And everyone was like, that was an amazing moment. I was like, it was a cool moment, but you could have saved that for WrestleMania. It's like a month away. And then in the next... some shenanigans in that match as well. It wasn't like a super clean victory.
Banks essentially won it for her.
Yeah, and then in Fastlane... Charlotte's undefeated pay-per-view streak. Surely she'll win it back, and then Bayley can kind of have the crowning moment at WrestleMania. No, Charlotte just lost that streak, fell flat, and Sasha Banks did cheat to help Bayley that time. Bayley didn't see it. The next night, she teases, it wasn't the right thing to do, so I'm going to give the Raw Women's Championship back. Nah, I'm just kidding. You're like, no, you're meant to be the good guy here. You're not the badass heel, or the badass baby face like a Stone Cold who can do that sort of thing. You're lovable John Cena with lady parts. And more affable. So that happens, and then she wins the title at WrestleMania, which was cool. But even that was not quite right, I think. And then she loses it in her hometown to Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss craps on her. You have the terrible "This Is Your Life" segment. And then, in 5 minutes, Alexa Bliss beats Bayley in a match that Bayley called for, which is this kendo stick on a pole match. And the way it works is the kendo stick came down almost immediately. That was in the first minute. So, okay, well, that's kind of taken out that side of things, that tension point. But Bayley gets it first. She's about to hit Alexa Bliss. I think the story they were trying to tell was, I'm hesitating because I'm a good person. But the commentators didn't mention that, and she didn't hesitate for long enough. So Alexa Bliss just tackled her, got the stick, boof, boof, boof. There was one belly-to-belly suplex, but then Bliss, boof, 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 and pinned her.
They built it up a bit more on the Raw afterwards. Like, they built up that storyline. They played it off a little bit more, being like, she has to... the damage completely done by that point. And it makes me so upset, because the storyline was, can Bayley get Extreme? And the answer was, no, apparently not, because she's a loser. Just like you fans are, because that's what she is, a fan, and she's a dork because she watches wrestling. I feel so bad, because I love Bayley so much. She is money. Do you know what that match was? That match was the scene in The Dark Knight when the Joker sets fire to all that money.
All right.
That's what that match was. In a nutshell, was them just standing there just going like, we're just going to burn all of this money.
One of the most merchandisable people
She's
you have on the roster.
She's a female John Cena.
Yeah.
She's literally the female... She was the female John Cena who everyone actually liked.
Yeah.
Oh, it was such a complete waste.
Rich Swann and Sasha Banks beat Noam Dar and Alicia Fox.
Yep.
That was a pretty fun match, actually. I quite enjoyed it.
Fun little match.
And Rich Swann was in his hometown of Baltimore.
Wow. Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 said that he felt that Swann was going to get that win in Baltimore because what they want to do is to instill the idea within fans that someone can win in their hometown. So when it comes to Randy versus Jinder, then you're not going to be like, oh, well, he's in his hometown. Clearly, he's losing.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, so I think that's why they did it.
But futile.
Yeah.
But a futile method.
And I really like Rich Swann and Sasha Banks together.
They're not bad, are they? We both got that one right. Now is where so we're neck and neck right now.
Yeah.
It's going to change. So next up was the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys, defending their titles in a steel cage match, a stipulation they asked for against Cesaro and Sheamus. Bit of a fiddly match. I thought it didn't gel for the first half. It was just... because you couldn't create that dynamic of 2-on-1, which is quite important for a heels versus babyfaces tag match, in WWE at least, because they're all there all the time, and there was always like a body strewn there or a body there. It wasn't until Jeff Hardy got out the cage, where it was like Jeff's trying to get back in to help Matt, that it was actually, I started to really enjoy this. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, very much similar to you. I think you hit the nail on the head, really. It didn't quite click at the start, but... it kind of got better as it went on, and it was Jeff getting out of the cage. A lot of people I've seen online really upset about that ruling because they said it was a bit stupid. And actually the commentators as well kept saying that it was kind of stupid for them to try and escape on their own because then you're going to leave your tag team partner in there, which then really just sort of makes all four of them in the ring look like dumbasses because the commentators are going like, look at these dumbasses trying to escape and screw over their tag team partner. So I felt that the match was a little bit muddled in the way that it was kind of put together, not helped by the commentary team pointing that out. So it was a shame. And and the shocking thing of it was that Cesaro won the belts.
Yeah, so the heels got the win. And the Hardy Boys got their first loss in WWE since their return. And
we said last week that the Hardys kept winning every match of the feud, which statistically would say that Cesaro were winning, but I just didn't think they would.
Which is why you didn't pick them, but this guy did. Yep. I thought you needed to give Sheamus a win.
They desperately needed it, but well done you.
Whisper in the Wind off the top. Didn't look that impressive to me. I feel like I've been quite desensitized to things.
Yeah, so...
maybe it was the angle they shot it at.
No, it is very much the desensitization to things. Like, for example, if you went back and watched the WrestleMania 10 ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, like I think if you've been conditioned to watch ladder matches in like today's society, you go back, it's like, oh, that match is very tame. There's very little in that. It's kind of actually like watching the Mankind Undertaker Hell in a Cell and then watching the Shawn Michaels Undertaker Hell in a Cell, which is so much tamer in comparison. Problem is when you then set the bar, kind of then you have to try and top that bar every time. So then there's a kind of a diminishing returns, really. It's like the WrestleMania 2000 Triangle Ladder match, I think still holds up because there was so much stuff in there that was brand new. But I wonder if I think it holds up is because I watched it live at the time, and that's the one match from that card that really sticks out to me and I can almost call it move for move because I've watched it so many times since.
There was a similar thing that happened in New Japan last year. It was their first ever ladder match, I think, because they just don't do ladder matches like that. And it was between Kenny Omega and Michael Elgin. And it was, it was a pretty decent ladder match, but the crowd were going crazy because they're not used to this sort of stuff. So I'm ahead currently if you're keeping score. Then we had Neville versus Austin Aries in a submission match, which Austin Aries lost. Third pay-per-view attempt, and he's lost all three.
So the key to this one, I feel, was Aries' smirk
at the end
after the match, and where that was going to lead to. My theory was that either it's going to lead to a Aries heel turn, or my other idea would be that it's going to lead to a Neville Aries tandem. They're going to be a team. So Aries is going to be, if I can't beat them, join them. And so they'll work together.
He's broken in that way.
Kind of, but kind of, so they're going to work together. But really, Aries is just it's the Randy Orton thing, basically.
Oh,
I'm
sick of that story.
Just so then
Sorry,
you can eventually, and then eventually turn on Neville to kind of get into his mind, and then it'll eventually get the belt. It's the only thing I could think of as to why he'd have lost 3 straight pay-per-view matches, because it does nothing for the Aries character.
Yeah, I'm completely over that kind of story right now. Someone pretends to be their friend to get a title shot. It's kind of going on with Nia Jackson. Alexa Bliss, you also had it with TJP and Neville.
Yep.
Have we got a...
No, sorry, I saw the t-shirt had fallen, but no, this new tape is very good.
Yes, it's adhesive. And then I was also, off the back of the Randy Orton-Bray Wyatt feud, I was rewatching a few bits earlier today of the Authority storyline with Seth Rollins and how Randy Orton came through that and did exactly the same thing, really.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I only made that connection today, and I was like, you know what? Screw this storyline. I'm over it. So unfortunately, I don't like that pitch. My pitch...
It wasn't a pitch to be like, hey, dude, book my idea.
So my pitch would be that this smile was Austin Aries going, you know what? I've cracked. I'm going to start taking out main roster. Maybe Austin Aries is taking out Enzo and Cass.
No.
I know, because that started happening before.
Yeah.
Damn it. So he starts... he transitions into the main roster. Because he's better than the cruiserweights.
So much better than the cruiserweights he's given. But, Neville's so much better than the cruiserweights that he's put into. And there's a lot of it, like Gorilla Position was saying that they were hoping that Neville would drop the belt and then move back up into, quote-unquote, the main roster. But I think that they kind of see them as... they're vanilla midgets. That's what they do. They go and then they have their flippy-do matches.
Anyway, neither of us got that one right because we both went for
close.
Austin
I
Aries.
was so close to picking Neville as well. I'm really annoyed at myself for not picking Neville.
That is.
Isn't it funny?
And finally, we've already spoken about it. Samoa Joe won the Fatal 5-Way Universal #1 Contenders match. Neither of us got that one because I said Finn Balor and you said Seth Rollins.
What a great match.
Yeah, oh my God, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really, really good. They told so many stories in it. It reminded me of the Survivor Series main event from last year.
Yeah, totally.
Because you kind of had a Shield reunion. I know it wasn't a Shield reunion here, but you did play off that dynamic. Samoa Joe and Bray Wyatt teaming up together.
Oh, well, I did roll my eyes a little bit at that. I was like, it's bad storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. You know this guy's a dick. Stop teaming with him.
But sometimes I don't mind if Bray Wyatt does enough facials. Where he's like, here's the chair. And I was really into all of it. And a few really good spots. The frog splash through the announcer's table.
Man, he leaped through the air for that.
The spear on Joe and Finn Balor through the timekeeper area.
Oh, it was so great. Everyone was on fire in that match. What a great main event.
Yeah, I
really
love
great.
a good timekeeper area spear into that. Yeah. I mean, they use it a lot, but it's still really, really like it. Anyway, overall, that's probably might be in my top 10 matches of the year.
Oh, really?
I really, really liked it. Yeah, when I was writing out the options for best matches of the year so far, I put this in.
Put in there. I mean, I voted Pete Dunne, Tyler Bates because, of course,
of Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
So overall, that gives me 4 out of 6, and you 3 out of 6.
Yeah.
So that's
I did
a bit of a streak.
I did put up a tweet on Monday morning with that moment when you realise you've lost the predictions. Yeah.
So at the moment, we've talked about it before. We're just kind of doing this for fun for now, but hopefully you'll be joining us sort of full time soon. Hopefully in July. So I'm thinking, although this is just sort of foreplay, just feeling each other out, maybe we create some kind of league.
Yeah.
I don't want to step on anyone's toes, though. The obvious thing to do is have a belt and trade it back and forth between us. Well, I think somebody else does that.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it's the big what culture thing. It's the Adam versus Adam. They do the predictions, and then they do forfeits. Like, I want to do that. I mean, can we do that? And do you think... I think people might get mad at us for about a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then it'll
die
everyone
off.
will just let them do it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I have to do if you're a wrestler and you take someone else's move and you respectfully go over to them and say, is it okay?
Unless, of course, you're Sami Zayn. God,
Yeah.
Did you see already the I can't remember who it was now, but there was someone on an NXT show hit like a Blue Thunder bomb, and he quoted saying like, "Nice one for stealing my move," and everyone was like, "Yeah, dingus, you didn't come up with that move either."
Tyson Kidd.
That's
tweeted.
Tyson Kidd. Yeah.
I'm sure enter Japanese wrestler's name here, I would say it's set differently. Seth Rollins got annoyed about someone using one of his old moves. I think Kushida was going to use it. I can't remember what it was called now. But everyone was like, dude, you got the V trigger from Kenny Omega.
Also that, but you've been doing the pedigree for the last year and a bit.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for today. So please click the videos that have just appeared over Luke's face there for the WrestleTalk news and, of course, the WrestleRamble. Subscribe to WrestleTalk and donate, support WrestleTalk on Patreon. This has been Luke Owen. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was Rambling.
Yeah.